Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event. Let's get ready to rumble!
And that's right, everybody. Welcome back once again to another edition of the Best Seat in the House podcast. As always, I'm your host, Rob Cramer, joined by my co-host, Daniel Bobo Curlin. And Happy New Year to everybody. Happy New Year, Dan, and how you doing so far?
I'm doing fine. Unfortunately, the new year started off with probably the worst loss the Rangers had this season. I cannot express how un-Rangers like all that game was yesterday. Like, let's just hope that one's. I just have a feeling that one's just gonna be a blip on the radar, because I just have a feeling next game they're just gonna come out swinging. Especially next time they play against the Canes again. I don't think they'll be playing like that again. They'll be on all cylinders.
I agree, Dan. And you know what? As a matter of fact, I'm almost kind of happy. Like, obviously, you're never happy. You know what? Let's just start right there, too, by the way. As Dan's talking about, the Rangers ended up getting blown out 6-1 at home against the Hurricanes yesterday. If you're watching this on Thursday, it was 2 days ago on Tuesday night. The Rangers still 25-10-1, right up there with Boston. That's the best team in the league right now. But yeah, definitely a tough game yesterday. Obviously, the Hurricanes are a good, very talented team. But, you know, a team like the Rangers, you don't want to be getting blown out like that on home ice. But as I was saying a second ago, I'm not like that concerned by it too. I think every once in a while, especially a good team like this, it's a nice reminder that you're not infallible. You know, it's a nice kick in the ass to kind of wake you up, especially after a sleepy little holiday break the Rangers have been on since their end of the year trip to Florida. So you know what? As bad as that was to watch last night, I think in the long run it might end up being good, because I totally agree with you. The Rangers are going to come out swinging. They play Thursday night against the Chicago Blackhawks. And we'll get into that in a second, because that game takes on a little bit of significance. But do you agree with any of what I just said, Dan, that sometimes getting a kick in the ass like this in the regular season can be a good thing, especially for a veteran coach like Peter Laviolette that can use it?
Yep, exactly. I just feel like all the good teams usually bounce back from a bad loss like that.
Yeah, I totally agree, Dan. And you know what? There's going to be a little jump in the Rangers' step come this Thursday night, tonight, if you're watching this on the debut day of this episode, which thank you for watching, by the way. And the Rangers are going to have a little pep in their step, as they announced just a couple of hours ago, maybe an hour or two ago, that they're calling up top prospect Brennan Othmann from Hartford. Now, if you remember, Brennan Othmann was drafted by the Rangers in the first round 2 years ago. I believe it was the 2021 draft. He had a very good season in juniors. That first year, scored over 50 goals, setting all kinds of records. He got traded in juniors last year and won a championship, had a great year. So I think Brennan Othmann got all he could out of juniors. This year, could have made the team out of camp, got cut, one of the last cuts the Rangers had, has been playing very well in Hartford this year, has definitely earned this call-up. And even though he's on as I've seen pointed out on Twitter, he hasn't scored a goal in 9 games right now down in Hartford, in the last 9 games. I think that comes as a wake-up call once again to the kid too. Just like we said, the Rangers needed a wake-up call. Maybe Brennan Othmann, with this NHL promotion, gets a little bit of a wake-up call himself, and this adds a little bit of a jump to his game as well.
Yeah, I just feel like some of the greats, when they get promoted to the pros, I just feel like they rise to the occasion. They just I feel like the greats they show it right from the beginning with the enthusiasm. I just seen it so many times with so many players. I could use the example of other sports. I remember when David Wright got called up, I was hearing all the press talk about like how literally like how enthusiastic he was to finally be there, and he was just eager to show what he's got. Same thing. I feel like that 2019, another baseball example that I saw this in baseball. 2019 spring training, Pete Alonso just looked like he was on a mission from the get go in spring training. That he was gonna get called up from the beginning and stick. And he's shown it that he's become one of the elite players in the major leagues. So I just feel like the greats they when they showed from the greats always showed from the beginning that they want to they're going to push whatever it takes to get better, and they're just and they just seem to always want to win the moment they get there, the moment they start.
Yeah, Dan, I totally agree with you actually, and I think you really hit the nail on the head, especially when it comes to you mentioned David Wright. Obviously, it also made me think of when Jose Reyes came up. But you mentioning Pete Alonso, and that kind of strikes me in a different way too, because Pete Alonso, I was actually in the clubhouse for the 2019 spring training. I was actually down there in spring training covering it for WGBB. And being in that clubhouse was just amazing. Being in that the locker room and that environment was really incredible. And you saw, if you remember back in that, obviously we had Jacob deGrom coming off that fantastic season, and Robbie Cano had just been traded to the team and really earned a lot of reverence in that locker room and a lot of respect. But it was really shocking to me and really eye-opening to see how well this kid, Pete Alonso, who nobody really counted on that much, commanded respect, was able to articulate perfectly, was, really easy with the media and said all the right things. And that guy reminds me of Brennan Othmann, to bring it all back together to the Rangers, because I think that was a really astute point that you made, comparing it to, guys that have come up in New York. Even if you want to talk about a guy like Aaron Judge, who came up for the Yankees and did all the right things just as well, So I think that was a great point, because Brennan Othmann could be one of those guys following in those footsteps. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And I just feel like right now we could be looking at one of the greats in New York sports right here from the beginning. And we're able to say that we saw him right from the beginning. We saw him right from the start.
Yeah. Yeah. And, the dream for the Rangers going forward is that, obviously, like, look, we love Chris Kreider and Mika Zibanejad and Artemi Panarin, but the facts are that those guys are in their 30s, and there's a clock on how much longer they're going to be here. The real future of the New York Rangers are guys like Igor Shesterkin and Brennan Othmann, and obviously Alexis Lafreniere, who has come in and played at an awesome rate this year too. But another guy, or a couple, the other guys who were big pieces of that future as well too, Filipino and Capo Caco, they've been sidelined for most this year, and Tyler Pitlick joined them, which is the only reason that opened up this door for Brennan Othmann to come in. Now, Tyler Pitlick is hoping that he's not Wally Pipp, and he's missing this time now, and Brennan Othmann comes and steals that job. I mean, as Ranger fans, no offense, Tyler Pitlick, I think we would all love to see him get Wally Pipped right there. But when the fact of the matter is, Dan, the reason why I brought this all up with Pitlick being added to this list now, these are three guys. Hedl was supposed to be the second line center. Kako, when camp broke, was the number one line right wing, and he ended up getting dropped down to the third, and they flip-flopped him with Blake Wheeler. But breaking camp, this guy was your number one right wing, and Tyler Pitlick was your third or fourth line right wing. Either way, that's three guys out of your top 12 gone. So, it really is a credit to the coaching staff. And a lot of these other guys like Jimmy Vesey, stepping up and getting a bunch of offensive production out of a guy like Keandre Miller, where the Rangers are really in still a great position. Like we were saying before, that they're basically tied with Boston for the best record in hockey and the most points. So, it's nice to see that, but it's even nicer to see that they're still able to do it, even with three guys that are, supposed to play pretty big roles on this team, all injured.
Yeah, I just have to give a lot of credit to this team. I just feel like this team is. I don't want to say the SC word yet, but it's going to be something very special. I feel like.
Yeah, it does have that feel to it. Yeah,
and I just feel like that word that I'm not going to mention yet just feels like it's very possible it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, let's be honest. Last year, when they're bringing in Tarasenko and they're bringing in Kane, it kind of had that feel too. But this year, it feels much more, like it's not being forced. You know what I mean? Like this year, it feels like it's all kind of falling into place, right?
Yeah. I just feel like it just fell into place. I just feel like the moment I feel even more that by the time it was getting close to January around Christmas, I knew like usually I really feel like by the time around Christmas time comes, that's usually when you know quite where if your team's a legit contender for that word I'm not going to mention, and they look like it.
Yeah, it's true, man. Now they get to go out tomorrow and make us forget about what happened yesterday. Big game, 7 p.m. tomorrow night. Tonight, if you're watching this, the day we're debuting it. Chicago Blackhawks off to a bad start this year with top rookie Connor Bedard leading the way for them, 11-24-2 so far. Rangers are going to be coming in 25-10-1. So two teams heading in completely different directions. But interesting enough, Brennan Othmann was teammates with a few of these kids, including Connor Bedard on the Blackhawks. So it'll be a interesting little feelings for them tomorrow. Not to mention Bedard, there's always a heightened level of feel and, in the building when it's an original 6 game too. So between Connor Bedard being in the Garden, it being an original 6 matchup, the Rangers playing as well as they are, and Brennan Othmann's debut, I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on Madison Square Garden tomorrow night, Dan. What do you think?
Yep, plus that I look forward to after a Rangers win, reminding everyone in Chicago that New York wins hands down in the pizza wars.
Oh, yeah, it's a no contest. That's a no contest, buddy. You got that right.
Yep, that's the Chicago pizza is just a giant thing of bread, a giant thick piece of bread with pizza ingredients on it. That's all it is. It's not even pizza. It's thick bread with pizza ingredients on it.
Yeah, and more sauce than cheese. Which, come on, let's be honest. You got to have a good amount of cheese on it.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing, pizza should be able to be eaten with your hands, not too thick to carry, not too thick to lift. Yep. You got to be able to eat it with your hands. If you can't eat it with your hands, it's not pizza.
Yeah, not a knife and a fork like our former mayor of New York.
Yeah, exactly. If you're in New York eating pizza with a fork and knife, you deserve to be shamed.
Absolutely, Dan. Absolutely. So yeah, there's definitely heightened expectations tomorrow at the Garden. So it's going to be really fun to see that. And you know what? Let's just keep it rolling with our Garden teams right now, Dan. Actually, as the Knicks right now too. The obviously the Rangers have gotten off to a good start. The Knicks have been a little bit up and down. They're coming off a nice 112-106 win over the Timberwolves on New Year's Day. So they turned the holiday trick there. the holiday daily double as they won on Christmas Day against Milwaukee, and they win on New Year's Day against the Timberwolves. So definitely two nice wins for the Knicks there. Gets the Knicks off a 3-game losing streak, so they're starting to figure things out again and get back on a roll. But as me and you mentioned, if you're a Patreon subscriber, you saw us delve into this a little bit on Sunday following the Giants game when we talked a little bit about this. But I'm sure you've heard by now, but we have to give our thoughts on it. The Knicks have traded R.J. Barrett and Emmanuel Quickly to Toronto for OG Anunoby. And OG looked pretty good in his debut on obviously New Year's Day for the Knicks. And, what do you think about this trade, Dan? There's a lot of emotions going into it. There's a lot of Knicks fans that, were really, really high on Quickly. But obviously the Knicks thought process that they might not have been able to re-sign him this offseason played a role in them trading him. But, RJ Barrett, I feel like, kind of has the fan base split where a lot of people like him but probably overvalue him a little bit. And a lot of people for Knicks fans don't like RJ but probably also undervalue him a little bit. So where do you stand on this trade, Dan?
I feel this trade could be a good trade, but I feel like they need to make another trade to really validate this trade. I feel like they need to trade for that big player. And dare I say it, we talked about speculation that Donovan Mitchell could be available and that the Knicks are going to heavily push to make that trade happen. I feel they need to make that trade for Donovan Mitchell if this trade were to work, because I feel like this guy is another piece, is a piece to a puzzle that there needs to be a third, dare I say it, a third star to really get this, put this team together. I feel like, because I just feel like the great teams just have a star player, but they have the guys that can be huge role players that are also stars that complement the stars. All the great teams had those kind of players. A good example, that dynasty, that Chicago Bulls dynasty. I feel they are the perfect example of that.
Yeah, but I mean, especially in the NBA, you could go all over the last 20 or 30 years and talk about teams that had that big three, but I think, I think that, obviously we were talking about this on Sunday, and what we were referencing was, if you're not familiar, Jake Asman, who is a big Jets guy who we had on our podcast over the summer to preview some Jets stuff. He's an ESPN reporter. This is a guy that knows about a lot of different sports, and what his sources have been telling him. He's also a contributor on Knicks TV on YouTube. If you're a fan, love those guys. So subscribe if you're a Knicks fan. A lot of great content there too. But what Jake was getting at was that that this could be, like we were talking about, a potential for a bigger trade down the line, leading to a guy. Well, he specifically mentioned Donovan Mitchell. So if they could find out a way to work that out, that would be incredible. The Knicks definitely have to figure out a way to bring in another guy. Just because that's just the way things are done in the NBA now. It's you don't see a one-man show getting it done anymore. So that's why right now I think that this is going to be, a situation where it could be leading to that. And with Donovan Mitchell, this storybook opened a couple of years ago where we were all salivating all offseason at the prospect of Donovan Mitchell, who's a lifelong New Yorker, diehard Met fan, wants to be a Knick. Everybody expected him to get traded here. He ends up going to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Well, so the Knicks lost out on that one. But maybe with all this, the Knicks do still have draft capital If we're looking over at our friends at tankathon.com, they talk about, the Knicks still have a protected, unfortunately, draft pick from the Porzingis trade in their wheelhouse that right now would be theirs because it's only protected 1 through 10 from Dallas. So right now, Dallas's pick would be 18. So the Knicks would get an extra first-round draft pick right there. The Knicks also have the Detroit Pistons first-round pick, but it's protected 1 through 18. And the Pistons being the worst team in basketball right now, there's no way the Knicks are getting that. So kiss that goodbye until next year. And the Washington Wizards, also a bad team, that's protected 1 through 12. So right now, the Knicks have 3 potential additional first-round draft picks in addition to their own. But it looks like only one of those is probably going to come through. But that's the good thing about the Knicks right now is that you have these assets to use. And, maybe if the Knicks just had one of those, it doesn't really help that much. But if you could even package those together and use that to get a guy like, really anybody we just mentioned, but specifically Donovan Mitchell, the Knicks should use that to their advantage, right?
Yeah, I just feel like they're in a good position that they can make this trade and not give up everything to get probably a game changer of a player.
Yeah, and man, I'm telling you right now, if we were fantasizing about it the other night, but if you add Donovan Mitchell to a rotation with Julius Randle, OG Anunoby, Jalen Brunson, Mitchell Robinson, that's a stacked lineup right there. And then you have Dante DiVincenzo coming off the bench. You have Josh Hart coming off the bench. This Knicks team, if they make a move like that, becomes a legitimate threat to come out of the East.
Yeah, I just feel like it could turn out to be a situation where it could be the 1994 all over again. This time, we remember 1994. We almost had the ending we wanted for both teams that play at the Garden. This time, it could be the 2 teams getting that end to the season that we hoped for. I don't want to say the word, but it could be that ending we thought we were going to get in 1994.
Well, Dan, you know what? I think that's a great point. And you know what? You said finishing something, and this is what, it's funny to make a wrestling analogy, where last year at WrestleMania, Cody Rhodes, he won the Royal Rumble. He faced Roman Reigns for the championship at WrestleMania and lost. So ever since then, it's been his journey to try to get back to that match, which now with The Rock coming back looks like probably isn't happening, which, but by the way, I'm not upset about because I'm very happy to see The Rock back. But Cody Rhodes, the whole thing has been finish the story. Let's finish the story, get back to this championship match and finish it, get it done right this time, right? So I feel like that's kind of what the Knicks have to do now. You have to finish the story, finish it, go out there. You started the story a couple of years ago by turning a couple of pages and looking at and really lusting after bringing in Donovan Mitchell. Didn't work out at the time. Well, now's the time. Get it done, bring him in here, and let's go. Right, Dan? Finish the freaking story.
Yep, exactly. And I hope it's a situation where I'm going to be making 2 rounds of championship merchandise purchases for 2 different sports, if you get what I mean.
Exactly. I hear you. And just to wrap on the Knicks tonight, they're facing the Bulls, 18-15 Knicks going after the 15-20 Bulls tonight at Madison Square Garden. Tip off at 8:30, so it'll be a little bit. It'd be interesting to see how the Knicks come out and play tonight and try to really get a winning streak going with this new look roster. But let's keep it rolling along here, Dan. Now, as before we jump into the football, which obviously, the football is always, well, a lot of the time football is top, baseball is top, but football right now, it's tough to beat. But I heard this yesterday from Andy Martino, and I just wanted to get your thoughts on this. First off, before I even say anything, Dan, so far, what do you think about this Mets offseason?
Well, so far, I just feel like it's been silent, and I'm really losing faith in David Stearns. I'm just telling you, if he doesn't do anything this year, he better do something next offseason. Because
Well,
I,
let me
I,
ask
I
you this.
literally, I literally give David Stearns a 2 year. 2 years. I'm only giving him 2 years to do something. Because I just
Yeah,
feel like
I'm
this GM is going into the beginning of something, and I feel like that might take at least 2 years. And I just really feel like I am just hoping that at the trade deadline, if the Mets are in contention, he makes the move that needs to be moved. Because if you're at the trade deadline, you have and you're in contention, you have to make that move that puts your team over the top. That's all I can say. And I feel right now
well,
that big move is going to be pitching. I feel like.
well, you know what, Dan? I don't think that move is coming this trade deadline, because right now all these guys want to do is hoard these prospects that usually don't end up panning out for shit anyway. It's driving me crazy right now. This is one of the most frustrating off seasons that I can ever remember, mainly because back in the day, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when the Wilpons were bringing in Chris Young and, these shit guys that at the bottom of the barrel, bargain basement guys that they're bringing in, um, you know, we accepted it because we had no other choice. And you knew that the Wilpons were completely broke, and you knew that was it. We were screwed. The infuriating thing about this offseason is that the Mets have the money. They're just choosing not to spend it. And they're not going to go after Blake Snell. They've already swung and missed on Yamamoto. They're not extending Alonso. What are they doing? Why are we going to be forced? I actually hear Met fans, and this is the thing that sickens me with some Met fans. I actually hear some Met fans were talking about looking at our rotation for this year. And some Met fans said in a rebuilding year, which, by the way, when you have the richest fucking owner in sports, you should never in New York have a rebuilding year. I don't give a shit what happened. Oh, you swung and missed on Justin Verlander, then gave up after 3 months. Give me a fucking break. You're going to go out there and you're going to leave us with some of the highest ticket prices. It costs $50 to park my car at Citi Field. And and this is the rotation that they're telling me is acceptable for 2024. Kodai Senga, Jose Quintana, David Peterson, Tyler McGill, and Joey Lucchesi. That's the rotation you're going to run out there? I'm telling you right now, Dan, if that's the rotation the Mets are fucking running out there this year, not only am I going to have a mental breakdown, I'm not going to give $1 fucking dollar to Steve Cohen this year. They have not earned it. The fact that they threw in it just drives me crazy. Now they're trying to play this small ball shit. This is what worried me about bringing a guy like David Stearns from a small market team like the Milwaukee Brewers, because now he's pretending like it's small market ball here. I don't want to hear about the 2025 free agent class. I don't give a shit about them. I want to win in 2024, and with the pieces the Mets already have in place, that shouldn't be that crazy of a thought. Now, sorry I just yelled at you for 2 minutes, Dan, but I'm not yelling at you. You know what? I'm just trying to get this off my chest right now. But what do you think about that? If they're selling us a rotation of that ilk, a garbage rotation, it's going to drive me nuts. And the fact that they haven't improved the offense at all is a completely different story.
Well, I gotta tell you something. One thing, if they're gonna do this, there's one thing they gotta do during the off season, and there hasn't been any statement whether they're not doing this or not. They do have to sign Pete Alonso either now during spring training, which usually when they do those extension moves, or during the off season. They need to that's the first move they need to do during the if they're punting this season. They need to re-sign Pete Alonso during the season. I feel like this guy is like he's shown enough that he's gonna be. I feel like he has the ability to be that veteran leader. I feel like because I feel like
Yeah.
he's been with the team the longest. So that's right off the bat. If they're gonna punt this season, he's the first move they need to make after the 2000. If they're gonna wait till the off season to make the move, that's the first move they need to make is re-sign him because the last thing I want to see is Citi Field turn into David Stearns' tomb. We don't need a Grant's tomb 2.0.
Yeah. No, you're right, man. I totally agree. And yeah, it's just it's a joke what this owner is allowing to happen. He should be ashamed of himself, actually, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing I really have to give a prop to all of us who I feel like all of us who, including us, anyone who attended multiple games this year, the moment the Mets start to spend money, those fans need to get the first. They should get a pre-sale on tickets next year. I feel like.
Yeah, and
'Cause I
Steve
feel
Cohen, you know what, Dan? I'm sorry to interrupt you right now, but do you remember a couple of years ago when the Rangers wrote the letter to their fans explaining that, hey, this season's not working out. We're going to have to tear it down and start from the beginning. The Mets didn't. First of all, the Mets started off last season by completely lying and selling a whole bunch of bullshit to their fan base with Carlos Correa last year, where they sold a whole bunch of tickets. Remember last Christmas when they sold a whole bunch of tickets because they lied to Met fans saying they signed Carlos Correa, and then they backed out of that deal like the frauds they are. But then now, yeah, I'm sorry, Dan, what were you going to say?
Well, I'm going to say that Carlos Correa deal just affected the way I look at free agent signings. I don't celebrate until past the physical now.
Yeah, well,
so,
that's true
so I can
too.
play. Yeah. So I feel like that. So I feel like that. If I see, like, for example, if the Mets, let's say, during this off season, if they did pull a signing, like let's say they did sign a player like Shohei Ohtani, which I feel like I knew from the beginning last year his mind was set that he was going to play the West Coast. But if a guy like that did sign with the Mets, I would have not celebrated until I saw the press conference. Until I saw the press conference on SNY, that's when I would celebrate. So from that point on, I don't celebrate free agent signings or big trades until I see the press conference.
Dan, the point is that he lied to us. It's like lying and completely misleading your stockholders. I set up a spring training trip specifically right after the Carlos Correa sign. So I was one of the fans that was lied to and misled. You know, like all the fans that went out and bought tickets, they sold a lot of tickets on between December 20th and December 26th last year with on the heels of announcing that fake signing that never ended up happening. And, you know, how about what I want from Steve Cohen? Write a letter of apology to your fan base, how you've lied to us and mistreated us over the last year. And now, on top of everything else, after the indignities of having to watch this team get torn down mid-season last year and being ridiculed by everybody, we've been dog shit on the foot of every fan base around baseball. And, you know, and now this guy has a chance to try to, you know, make us a respectable franchise again. And the second year in, he throws the towel. I just can't take it. I can't take it. I can't take being lied to by this franchise anymore. I'd rather have had the Wilpons where my expectations are still in the toilet, but instead I got my hopes up by this guy, and he sold us a bill of goods and then stabbed us in the back after 1 year. Great. Maybe next year he'll turn into the free agent signer again. But guess what? I don't give a shit because I don't want to sit through 2024 and watch a dog shit team that we just had to watch last year. I'm sorry. I don't want to do it. And now we're going to have to sit here and talk about it next year. And it's going to drive me fucking crazy that, the only 3 guys worth a damn on the offensive side of the ball, whatever, Nimmo, McNeil, Alonso, Lindor, whichever way you want to say it. Those are the only guys worth a damn. Everybody else on the offensive side, they let Ronnie Mauricio play in the Dominican this year. Well, guess what? You're not going to see him for another 12 months. He had surgery yesterday. Did you know that, Dan?
Yeah, I knew that. I feel like Ronnie Mauricio. I feel like that was a big mistake to let the guy play in a winter ball. I feel like that's especially with players that do a lot of base stealing. I just feel like they're the ones that always manage to injure themselves in situations like this.
Yeah, but he got hurt 2 months ago. Why did he wait until January to get the surgery? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
right.
That one really shocked me. Why he waited this long to get the surgery? I feel like he should have got the surgery right away. I don't know what was going on there.
Yeah, but the only reason I brought that up was because Andy Martino reported yesterday that Steve Cohen and David Stearns are in lockstep with their shit plan for 2024. So just in case we thought maybe the owner would overrule our dog shit president of baseball operations, well, don't get your hopes up, kids, because it's not going to happen. So thank you, Steve Cohen, for 1 year. 2022 is the only year you gave us. 2021, failure. 2023, failure. 2022, you gave us 101 wins, still failure. And 2024, another failure. So thanks, Stevie. You're doing a great job. They're really on track to win a World Series in that 5-year span, like he said. So love the fact that you just lied to us.
Well, I just feel like two things that I feel like are, well, one I hope happens. They need to do a better job this year. If they're going to do that, they need to make moves that build toward 2005. I feel like you have to make a big move. You have to show the prospective free agents to want to come here that the team could go from having a season that maybe was so-so to that they're going to one up what they did the previous year. The other thing, I have a feeling that they're going to get a larger number of beer sales this year than last year.
All right, let's keep it moving along here to the New York Football Giants. New York Giants went out and lost their 3rd straight. They dropped the game 26-25 to the LA Rams. Questionable decisions at the end of regulation end up costing the Giants the game. Me and you discussed it on our Patreon show, which if you're interested, only $5. Maybe I should take my Mets rant and put that on Patreon. But I think though, I'm a big fan of Coach Daboll. I did not like when they got flagged on the extra point kick that tied the game at 26-26. He had the chance to rethink things. He did. He ended up going for 2 after that. And even though it was a nicely drawn up play where Saquon Barkley was open, those plays, every single thing has to go right. And if one thing doesn't, the execution's not there. And that's what happened. Bad throw by Tyrod Taylor. Saquon couldn't haul it in. And Giants end up not converting the 2-point conversion, lose 26-25. Dan, what'd you think about Daboll changing his mind at the end of the game there?
I think he just should have. He just should have went for the extra point, kicked in that extra point, and maybe it would have worked out that it would have gone into overtime. I feel like they would have shown a better fight if they would have taken their chances to overtime, because that field goal, I just had a scary feeling that field goal was gonna miss, and it's just weird this year because the team was out of contention. So I feel like I wasn't like on the edge of my seat as I normally would have been had that game would have had some importance. I just felt like that game, it was like hey, you know what? If they make this, I'll be happy. But it's not gonna really. It wasn't one of those things that was just gonna that just would have let me cursing up a storm had they not had they had it had it gone south in that game.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree with you, and I understand that thought process. I mean, if he made the kick, he'd be happy, but if he doesn't make the kick, it's not that big a deal. It's also probably helps the Giants that they lost that game because had they won, the Giants would probably be well, the Giants would at least be sitting in the 7 or 8 spot right now. And right now, if we could take a look at the Tankathon draft tracker, let's see where we have that right now. Right about here. As you can see, the New York Giants are currently sitting at 5. They're tied at 5 wins with the number 6 Chargers and 7 Tennessee Titans. So any win could potentially push them further back in the draft as far as 8, depending what happens with the Jet game. They can't drop any lower than 9. So the Giants are locked in at a top 10 pick. But right now, if they end up losing to Philadelphia on Sunday, and as we know now, the Giants are wrapping up the 2023 season on Sunday at home against the Eagles, 1 p.m. So the odds are in their favor because the Eagles do need to win. A couple weeks ago, we were looking at this game and we thought the Eagles might be sitting a lot of starters, so the Giants might have a chance to steal this one. But after the crushing loss to the Arizona Cardinals last week, the Eagles really need that win. So they're going to be playing for everything on Sunday,
Well, I can tell you this. I don't. Well, first and foremost, I kind of feel like that when Giants play against the Eagles, I can't stand the Philadelphia Eagles. I want to see them beat the shit out of the Eagles. But if the Giants don't win this game, I at least want to see the Eagles push them to the. I really want to see the Giants exhaust the Eagles. I want them that. I want to see the Eagles have to really earn that work for that win. I just hope that I just want the Giants to make this a highly contested game because I just want to see the Eagles worn out going into the playoffs. I want to see them limping into the playoffs.
Exactly, man. Kind of like the game we saw on Christmas Day, right? Where the Giants didn't win, but they took the Eagles to the limit and, were in the game, and really made a great run at the end.
Yeah, exactly. I want to at least see that. At least want to see that because I know this football season ends, and I know it's going to be counting down the winding months to a baseball season that I know is not going to that. I'm just going into this one low expectation. So I see, that a season that if it goes how I hope, I'll be happy. But if it doesn't, it's not going to be.
So definitely keep that in mind, everybody, as the Giants now, obviously they wrap up the season against the Eagles. And then, just to wrap up, last thing we got to touch on today, Dan, is the Jets. And, obviously coming into the season, we were leading off a lot of shows with the Jets. Now we're closing today with them because they're irrelevant, unfortunately. And right now the Jets end up getting blown out Thursday Night Football, 37-20 against the Browns. That's another thing that has really killed me this season. And I've come to terms with this Jets season being flushed down the toilet, so I'm not as emotional about it as I am with the Mets right now because the Mets, watching them flush their offseason away down the toilet is just literally killing me inside. But I want to point out one thing, right? So everybody has talked about all season how good the Jets defense has been. And for most of the year, that's 1,000% true. The Jets defense kept them relevant. They won games. They single-handedly won the game against the Philadelphia Eagles earlier this year. The Jets defense has played very well. So I don't want this to come off like I'm killing or knocking the Jets defense. But Robert Saleh gets all the credit for it. And Robert Saleh, you don't want to get rid of Robert Saleh because he's got the defense playing great, this and that, right? Well, how about this, right? So the Jets got blown out against the Browns 37-20. Defense didn't show up in that game. So that's week 17. Week 16 against the Commanders, Jets win 30-20, but they blew. It was the Jets win 30-28, but they blew a 20-point lead and was trailing 28-27 with 22 seconds left. They had a 27-7 lead and blew it. So no, that's another garbage game for the defense. How about the game where cornerback DJ Reed pretty much said they gave up in the third quarter? That's another one. 30-0 loss to the Dolphins. That's 1-2. That's their last 3 games. Then they played 2 really good games against the Texans and the Falcons. The defense really did play well those 2 games. But before that, blown out 34-13 against the Dolphins. Blown out 32-6 against the Bills. So you're telling me that 5 of the last 7 games that this team has played, they've played garbage defensively and quit in one of them, and they look like they damn well quit. They didn't even get off the plane against the Cleveland Browns, and now you're going to try to sell to me that this team never quit on Robert Saleh? The pass that Robert Saleh has gotten, I don't think any coach, I'll say this to you, Dan, right now. I don't think any coach in the history of New York sports has been given more of a pass than Robert Saleh. Who can you even think of one other coach who has accomplished as little as Robert Saleh? It's not like Bill Parcells, who had that one bad season for the Giants and then goes out and wins 2 Super Bowls and has a decade of supremacy with the Giants. It's not like, Willie Randolph came here, had a 500 seat. It's not like you could throw a lot of guys out there. Yogi Berra didn't really have that great of a run here. He gets to a World Series, though. When you look at a lot of these coaches, Robert Saleh is not being like. I just can't believe it. Can you think of a guy that's been given more of a pass than Saleh in New York sports history?
I can't think of anything. Well, one thing for one thing right now. I apologize for my singing because we don't have the budget to have Elton John rewrite this song about you. But dun dun dun, Robert and the Jets. Right, so I gotta say, Robert Saleh has to be it is just horrendous that they're giving this guy a free pass. He should be fired. Like, I should see Woody Johnson should be looking like Benson from the cartoon Regular Show and firing Robert Saleh. He should be screaming red. His face should be boiling red when he fires Woody Johnson. I mean, when he fires Robert Saleh. But what do you expect from like I said, from an owner whose name literally is his first name and his last name is a pun for a male obscenity? And I'm literally having a Beavis and Butthead moment, thinking that over the fact that the owner's name is Woody Johnson. I'm literally having a Beavis and Butthead moment. Like, Butthead, his name is Woody Johnson. I'm literally having
it's true. And it makes a lot of sense, too, because he is a dick.
And you know the crazy part? The company he owns happens to, of all things, be called, get ready to laugh at this one, Johnson & Johnson.
Yep. So, man, I mean, look, it's just, it's crazy to me. Think about this. Robert Saleh has coached 50 games as the Jets head coach, and he's lost 33 of them. He's lost. If he loses on Sunday to Bill Belichick, he'll have coached 51 games and lost twice as many as he's won. He'd be 17-31 if they lose to the Pats on 17-34 if they lose to the Patriots on Sunday. And I just can't understand. I've never seen a coach get a bigger pass in the history of New York sports than Robert Saleh. I can't think of one. I mean, what guy has skated for longer and done less? You saw going back to the the Giants with McAdoo. He had that one good season, then he had one bad season, and he's gone. You know, I can't think of anybody. You know, this would be like if when the Mets hired Art Howe, they gave Art Howe 5 years. Art Howe got 2 years in 03 and 04. They sucked both years. Willie Randolph was here the next year. You know, like this doesn't make any sense. It's almost like if when the Rangers, you know, went out there and you know, had all these bad coaches up until the fact that they hired Tom Rennie. I'm sorry, Tom Rennie. You know, and Tom Rennie finally got them back to significance. But you know, this would be like if they gave some of their crappy coaches like 5 years. This doesn't make any sense. He's not going to magically transform into a good coach overnight. But some people just don't want to hear it.
I know. It's just it's really either that he needs to be fired. And speaking of looking at this from an outsider with all the history with the Jets, it makes me kind of wonder what would have happened had Bill Belichick actually didn't turn down the offer to be when Bill Parcells literally handed the keys to the car to Bill Belichick. For all you guys that don't know your history, Bill Parcells when he decided to it was one of his many attempts. He said he was going to retire. Decided he was going to done coaching, and he was handing the keys to Bill Belichick. He felt he was just handing the keys to Bill Belichick, and ownership was on board with it. Bill Belichick walked away from that the moment he was handed the keys. Makes me kind of wonder. Especially, I want to hear about this from a Jets fan yourself. Do you think the Jets would have had the kind of success Bill Belichick had with the Patriots had Bill Belichick accepted the keys to the car?
No, definitely not, because the Jets are fucking stupid, and the Jets, you know, probably wouldn't have made him the GM as well, which was another reason why he didn't take the job with the Jets. Also, the Jets probably wouldn't have drafted Tom Brady, which Tom Brady played a very, very big role in why the you know, as good of a coach as Belichick is, and I think he's a great coach, you know, the pairing of him and Brady took him to that next level. And yeah, I think the Jets would have found a way to fuck that up, and Bill Belichick would have been fired by 2005. And he lasted 1 day here, 1 day, and on January 4th, 2000, he resigned on a napkin and wrote, "I resign as HC of the NYJ." And with that, Bill Belichick, this is already, I'm going to have to mark this as explicit already. So Bill Belichick, go fuck yourself. That's what I got to say. And you know what? This is going to be known as the dirty episode, or the episode where Cramer just lost his fucking mind, because between the Mets and the Jets, I thank God for the New York Rangers, because I don't know what I'd be doing right now if I didn't have this very good hockey team to root for. Because my baseball and football teams are terrible.
Well, I got to give props. Like, for one thing, I got to say to females, if you're dating a Mets fan, expect one good thing: loyalty. Even when things go south, you can always guarantee loyalty. That's what's one thing about Mets fans. We're very loyal. At least you can guarantee that, even though you might see us getting being upset during baseball season, you can get you're guaranteed loyalty at least. And what more could you ask for is that loyalty?
Yeah, you're right. Because you know what, Dan? I'll always be loyal to the Mets. I'll always love the Mets. They'll always find a way to rope me in, as angry as I get at them. But I just won't be a doormat. Also, if I see things being handled the way that I don't think they should be handled, or if I think the organization is doing things in a poor manner, I'll call them out every step of the way. And I see these people on Twitter who all they want to do is be a mouthpiece for the Mets, and all they want to do is, I agree with this, I agree with that. No, that's not me. I'm not that guy. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the sky is blue when it's obviously not. And right now I see some gray clouds approaching for 2024. I hope I'm wrong, but I think it's going to be a crappy year at Citi Field. So let's hope I'm wrong. That's all I got to say. But Dan, on that note, I think that's just about going to do it for us today. There's a fiery episode today, man. But before we get out of here, do you have anything you'd like to plug for yourself?
Sure. I want to plug, of course, my Twitter page, Bobo103NYC. My Instagram, you could find me on Bobo718DK. It's the same username I go by on Threads, even though I haven't been posting on Threads a lot because it's tough. I was already keeping track of everything on 3 social networks. You expect me to do 4, but it's there in case I want to reach mainly people that might only be on one. You know how you always get the one person that might be on one social network. So you want to make sure you have one that you always know where to reach. To reach the people that you know. So that's kind of why I do run a Threads account, but I'll probably try to post there more often. I'm sure you'll be seeing a lot more posts on Threads during baseball season because I feel like there's more photos and stuff when the weather gets a little bit better, because I just feel like winter in New York isn't always conducive to going out a lot, at least places that are outdoors. So I really feel like, and let's face it, I'm sure you do the same thing. We look at baseball season as like the start of warm weather season. Am I right?
Yep, definitely. Yeah, so
I
definitely agree with you on that, Dan. And anything else you'd like to plug before we get out of here?
That's everything. That's everything I got. That's everything I got to plug. Also, like I said, I am gonna when I get some because remember that real life versus infomercial video all you guys saw with me and Robert? Where I am gonna film. I did promise an extended cut of it. I am filming it. I just need to make sure to have 2 people available to film this, because one of the funny fails I drew up in my mind, I feel like I'm going to need 2 people to make happen. So once I got 2 people around, I'm going to make this funny fail happen. At least the one with me, the one that I'm doing, I feel like I need to have 2 people behind the scenes to make this one happen. But I promise you, it is going to happen. You kind of have to be patient. I mean, Yoda taught us one thing: patience, Skywalker. Pretty much, you got to follow the logic of Yoda.
Exactly. Well said, Dan. And yeah, you can find me on Twitter at KramerNY. You can find our podcast at BSeth_podcast, and also on Instagram at Best Seat in the House Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe on Rumble and YouTube. We appreciate all the support. And as always, find us on Patreon. $5 gets you in, and you're all good to go with all of our extra content. So thank you so much for tuning in all year and helping us. I know we're only 3 days in, but we appreciate it. And thank you for supporting us in 2022 and 2023 as well. So love everybody. For Daniel Bobo Curlin, I'm Rob Kramer. This is the Best Seat in the House podcast, and we'll catch you next week.